Welcome to our Insights mini workshops. Today we're going to be talking about branding and branding online as we go into an online situation. We were going to have Gretchen here, Gretchen Gleason, but I messed up the schedule and got her on today. She was not available, so we have to deal with her boss and the founder of Virtual CMO. Yeah, and you could explain that as you can. Here's Maennche. So, did I get it even close?
Maennche. It's all right.
Maennche. Okay. He's got one of those strange names. Machete. I'll just call you Machete.
There you go.
There you go. So I'm just going to turn it over to you, Matt, and go for it.
Okay, cool. Let me load up my PowerPoint here. All right, let me know when you can see my screen. It should be popping up here in a moment.
It says you're sharing, and there's your screen.
Okay, awesome. So the topic for this presentation today is how to brand yourself online, something that is incredibly relevant for 2020. It's been relevant for a long time, but it has a completely different definition as we leave 2020, and a lot of people, entrepreneurs, have had to operate online in a totally different way than going into 2020. So let's see. All right. My name is Maennche, as Jay said. I am a virtual chief marketing officer professionally. And what that means is I am a business consultant that focuses on marketing strategy. So you're going to hear a very high level throughout this presentation. I don't sell anything. This is all about getting down in the trenches and seeing how we can help your business through SCORE to be as aligned and be as successful as possible going into 2021. Sort of here's the agenda. The first step is we'll get established. We'll get our business established online. We'll sort of prepare it as the vehicle that we need to do business online, and then we'll work on building momentum. And then towards the end of the presentation, we'll talk about how to track results. So let's kick this off. All right, one of the first and basic things that you need in order to do business online is an email address, right? You need to be able to send email. Yeah, you could, try to use TikTok Messenger or Facebook direct message, Facebook Messenger to do business, but that's only going to get you so far. In order to communicate with everyone online, you're really still going to need to have an email address. So what I see a lot of companies do is they'll start with like bobbyswidgets@gmail.com. And so since we're talking about branding, I want to talk about why that is detrimental to your business. So let me ask you a question. You're muted, so I want you to unmute to talk to me. Unmute to ask me a question. But if somebody emailed you and said, "Hey Al, I got a new line of suits. I'd like to come by and show you," and they're emailing you from Matthew@gmail.com or MatthewsClothing@gmail.com, would you give that more or less credibility than somebody who's emailing you from Matthew@myclothingline.com?
I would probably be leery of that because of all the fake people out there, and I get them all the time with, people saying they this or that, and at the end of the day, they nowhere close to who they say they are. So.
Right. So having a professional email address, it's a really simple thing to do. You can even get them for free today, but G Suite makes it real easy. Office 365 makes it real easy to get a professional email address, but it definitely adds some value to the conversation before you ever even start speaking. Don't forget, all of your hackers, all of your fly-by-night type of companies, they all use a Gmail or a Yahoo or a Hotmail type of email for their business because they're so easy to get. And once they ruin one, they just go get another email address and start all over again. So if you're going to be a long-term online stable business, I would highly recommend you consider getting a professional email address, which is something like Matthew@myvcmo.com, or Al, what's your email address for your business?
AlexanderFashions@att.net.
Okay. All right. All right. Next up, we need to build a brand, build a website. So these days, when somebody learns about your business, and Al sort of hinted at this a few minutes ago, we don't instinctively trust anyone. We kind of go to look them up. If somebody emails us or reaches out to us, and even if they call us, we're likely going to go do a little bit of research to see if that's a company we want to do business with before we start a conversation. And everyone's a little different. So some people will go to Google, look for your website. Some people will go to Google and look for reviews. And then other people may go to Facebook and look for reviews. If you're a restaurant, then people may go to Yelp and look for reviews. But that's like all this research that we kind of instinctively do when we're trying to decide if this is actually someone I want to have a conversation with or not. So it's really important to kind of know what your customer or prospect process looks like so that you can figure out where they might go to research you and make sure that you have a presence there. By far, your most valuable digital asset is your website. So I would highly encourage you to put together a website. Maybe it's one of those free Wix things. It doesn't have to be this big, elaborate thing. You just need to have some sort of home online that all your social media profiles can connect to, and something that allows people to easily find you when they go to do that research, right? It's kind of like the professional email address. It adds a little bit of legitimacy. So, Cecil, Cecilia, Al, Jay, if you guys have any questions anywhere through this, just blurt them out. I prefer to talk about specific scenarios as we kind of walk through this. So if you just listen to me ramble for the whole time, I don't know if you'll get as much out of it. All right, brand consistency. So what is brand consistency? Can anyone tell me?
It's got to look the same and appear the same and say the same things on all platforms.
Right. Have you ever tried to go find somebody on Facebook and you look up, John Smith, and there's 3,000 John Smiths, and you're looking at the little pictures. Well, half of them don't have a picture. So you're like, which one is it? Well, that's the same thing that happens with a lot of businesses. You have this Facebook, you have your business card, which is maybe red and white, and then you have your website that kind of matches your business card, but then on your Facebook page, it looks cute to have a puppy this month. Well, the problem is when people go to look up your Facebook page, maybe that's the way some of your customers go to look you up, they see a profile picture of a puppy. So it's important to remember that 90% of the information the human brain processes is visual, right? We're not all big, deep readers. In fact, we look at those profile pictures many times to determine if we're in the right place. So if that profile image isn't consistent with your website, right? Like your Facebook page's profile image is not consistent with your website, then it's very likely that people will go to try to find it and they just can't find your Facebook page, even though it may clearly say your company's name on there. So it's really important to have if you're going to send out emails, like if you send out a monthly newsletter, use the same color, the same branding as your logo, as your website, as your Facebook page, as your Twitter, as whatever assets you have. Use consistent branding so that anytime anyone sees it, they see those colors and the way that they're aligned, and they automatically go, "Oh, this is Al's shop. Yeah, I love that place."
Hey, Matt, also, even down to the details of what font you use on printed material. Do
Absolutely.
the same every single time.
Yeah. The cool thing about most everything in the slide deck is that there's free ways to do it. They're not things that you got to go spend money to do. It's just it's a way of thinking, right? And they add up and they can be super powerful. Okay, so create business pages. Social media is one of the most cost-effective digital marketing platforms. This is true and false. So social media is free to use, but if you want to invest, like social media marketing, like you want to do some of those boost posts, that starts to change the curve. And it's actually incredibly difficult to scale a company and maintain a positive ROI with social media marketing. So when you're small, it's really easy to get an impact, but as your company gets bigger, you have to pivot and start to rely less and less on your social media strategy. But I want you to think outside the box. So do you have a Facebook? Do you have a Twitter? Do you have an Instagram? Do you have a LinkedIn? Do you have a Pinterest? Do you have what's some of the new ones? There's like 5 new social media platforms that have launched as like the place to be.
I noticed, Matt, that you left out Google.
Google for
Google My Business.
Okay, yeah, Google My Business. I actually have a slide specific for map listings, but okay. There's several others. I mentioned it earlier. What's the one where you get on there and do the dance?
TikTok.
TikTok, right? It's not on my list. So TikTok's one of them. Okay, so here's the thing. When I talk to entrepreneurs, I ask them, what social media channels do you have? They'll either say, I have all of them, and they'll give me this big, long list of all these social media profiles that they have. And when they do that, my answer is, how do you manage all these and still have time to run your business? Other people will say, well, I only have Twitter because I don't like Facebook and Instagram and these other ones. Well, okay, it's not about what you like. We're talking about your business. It's where's your ideal client? Where does your client hang out, right? So I'll give you a brief example. I was talking to a restaurateur who owns a chain of restaurants in Oklahoma, and they are only on Facebook. Well, they started to get on Instagram. So they're sort of on Facebook. They're well established on Facebook and a little bit on Instagram. And so I asked them, okay, what part of your business is struggling? If you're talking to me, obviously you're looking for more customers. So where are you struggling? Well, lunch. Okay, well, this particular restaurant is a steakhouse. All right. So my mind automatically goes to, well, why aren't you on LinkedIn? Well, LinkedIn is business professionals. And so if you wanted to market to business professionals and give them new ideas of where to take people for lunch, I never thought of that, right? So it's really thinking about your ideal client and your people who come in and patronize your business. Where do they hang out? You really want to spend your efforts as your business focusing on where your clientele is. And then through that theory, you can start to go, well, it doesn't really make sense for my business to be on Twitter. It doesn't make sense to be on, maybe Pinterest or whatever. And you can kind of focus your energy into managing just a few social media platforms rather than trying to be everywhere at once.
Matt, question for you.
Okay, go for it.
Now I have all of these, but the one that I don't think that really fit is Twitter. So how does a clothing store fit into Twitter?
Yeah, see, you're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. And it's not about how do I make it work for my clothing store. It's do my clients that come into my clothing store function on Twitter? Are they on Twitter? And if they're not, then don't waste your time.
Thank you.
Now, I will tell you that it is a good idea to kind of go set the pages up if you want and link them back to your website and link them to like your other brand in case there's a change at some point. And for example, LinkedIn used to be primarily business to business, and it's starting to become more Facebook. In fact, there's a common saying right now that the current LinkedIn is the Facebook of 2012. The content, the conversations is totally shifting on LinkedIn. So if you went and you sort of set up a LinkedIn page, even though you thought it didn't make sense, you kind of have it for down the road in case something starts to change. You're not starting from nothing. But yeah, if your clients are not on Twitter, if you have like 5 followers and you're trying to figure out why you can't get to 500, well, it's probably because they don't hang out on there. So it's probably not worth putting much energy into that. Cool.
We're
Now,
starting to see a lot of activity on Alignable too, Matt.
Yeah, exactly. Alignable is mostly salespeople, right? There's a lot of salespeople or people trying to sell a product, and they're trying to communicate with somebody else who's trying. Alignable is your chamber luncheon audiences. If you're somebody who your business benefits well from attending all those chamber luncheons, those are usually your real estate agents, your insurance agents, your financial advisors, all those types of people. So if you want to build more relationships with those types of people, or those are your ideal client, then Alignable could be a huge network for you. That exactly. Like, think about your ideal client and what types of jobs they might hold. In general, what type of income they might have. Like, it's really that whole. I have a whole presentation on just defining your ideal client, and so we might do that later. We'll have to ask Jay, but really, identifying your ideal client is so super important, because that's the way that you can really deep dive into understanding their psyche and where your business should spend its efforts. Now, don't misunderstand. We want to do business and with people who are not our ideal client, but if we focus all of our energy on marketing and being present for our ideal client, then naturally we're going to attract more of those types of people. So that leads to a more successful and easier to run business. All right. Now, Al, I got to ask a question. If I hop on TikTok and look you up, am I going to see you dancing on there?
No, sir.
All right.
That's one I don't have.
Fair enough. All right. So I kind of talked about this a little bit already, your Facebook and your different social media accounts, making sure that your cover photo, your logos match the rest of your brand, match your business card. If you had one of my business cards in your hand, you would see the big red, the M in the box. You'd see the business name. It's on a black background. It's a very consistent pattern with the profile picture that you see on the page here. It makes it really easy for, if you're looking me up online, most people, you're just trying to make sure you got the right one. I have such a unique name that if you see this picture, you're like, yeah, I got it right. So, all right. Identifying your ideal audience, right? So this is what I was just talking about briefly. So think about that person or type of person that does business at your establishment. And we're looking for the one that if you could duplicate them and you had 100 or 1,000 of those types of clients, if you could clone that person 1,000 times, life would be awesome. Like, business would be going gangbusters. Those people are your ideal client. That type of person, I'm going to use a bad word here, so I'll apologize in advance. You need to profile that person. You need to learn everything you can about that person. What kind of job title do they have? Maybe some people are sales executives and other account executives. I mean, there's going to be some discrepancies, but normally you're going to find that they're very consistent and very similar. And you can kind of start to build this general profile. What kind of house? Do they own a house? Do they live in an apartment? What's their average income? I mean, approximate, do they have kids? Do they have one kid or 2.33 kids? Are they married? Maybe they don't believe in marriage. Like, all these things are not good things or bad things. You're just trying to figure out how they think, really. And once you can kind of identify those steps, and I'm gonna be transparent with you here. You're never gonna finish this. This is something that you're always gonna build and grow to better understand your customers. But if you can figure out some of these key criteria, then you can start to go, oh, well, Jimmy comes into my shop and he's a regular customer. He loves our product. He's easy to do business with. I want more of him. Well, Jimmy doesn't spend any time on Twitter, right? So why spend time advertising for clients that, or for, what is that saying? Great-minded people think alike, or common-minded people, we tend to stick with people that are similar to us in their way of thinking. So that holds true. So when I talk about marketing demographics, people usually think of the male or female between the ages of 45 and 65 with an average household income of 65,000 to 100,000, 2.33 children. All that stuff is good, but that's a starting spot. What I really want to know is my ideal client a member or of AARP or of AOPA? Are they a member of SCORE, or are they a member of the Rotary? Do they hang out and follow the Chamber of Commerce, or is it the local soccer club? Through those types of things, you can identify where to spend your effort. Don't go to chamber luncheons if they are following the soccer club. Go sponsor a soccer game. Put your name on the little cups, right? All right. So I'm going to move on from here unless you have some questions, because I can talk about this all day. All right, here it is, Jay, or Cecil, sorry. Getting on the maps. So Google Maps. Again, separate presentation. We can walk you all the way through the steps of getting on the Google Maps. But let's be honest, in November of 2020, I think most people have figured out how to get on the maps. What you might not know is there's a Bing Maps and an Apple Maps. What's really important is they're all free. Not as many people use Bing as use Google, but again, it's a free listing. Go out there, get yourself set up. And if it throws, 3 or 5 fish into the boat each week, then it's a free lead source, right? Who doesn't want to do that? It's one of those cool things where you can go set up the profile and it just keeps delivering for weeks and months to come. Now, Apple Maps is a little different. Apple Maps, so let me back up. Bing is awesome. So you set up Apple Maps. That's usually what everyone sets up first. If you don't have Apple Maps, just go Google Apple. If you don't have Google Maps, just go Google Maps, and you'll wind up probably on a website called Gybo.com, and it has a wizard that'll walk you through getting on there. Now, if you're already on Google Maps, you can then go to Bing Maps, and again, just go Google Bing Maps. You'll find it real easily. And if you don't like Google Bing Maps, either way, you'll get there. And the cool thing about Bing Maps is it has an importer. You can actually log in from your Gmail account that your Google My Business map listing set up with, and it'll import all of the information. It makes it really super simple. It takes about 3 minutes to set up your Bing map listing. Now, Apple Maps, as I was saying, they're a little different. You need to go Google Apple Maps to find the link. It's not something slick like Bing Places or Apple Maps. Google Maps. It's something totally different, and I don't have it memorized. Now, Apple Maps, again, it's free. You go and you submit the profile and your information, but I like to think of the approval process sort of like a guy who works in a cubicle. And the guy who works in that cubicle, he doesn't work every day, right? He might come in once every 6 months. And so depending on when he worked last, that's how long it's going to take for your Apple Map listing to get approved. You can go submit your profile today, and it could be approved tomorrow, or it could be approved in 3 months. So I wouldn't get too excited if you don't get it auto-approved in the next week. Just go and fill out the application, and then when Johnny comes into work again, it'll get approved, and then you'll have one more thing out there throwing leads in, to your business. All right. Start creating content, right? This is a big deal for online. Content is king. That's been a saying since, I don't know, Al Gore created the internet, and it's, I would imagine, going to be a saying for quite a long time. So in order for you to get increased brand exposure, you need to create content. Now, this could be videos, it could be text, it could be articles, it could be blogs. infographics. Some people choose that. Whatever feels right for you and your business. So, you know, Al, you got your clothing store. Maybe you talk about different type of jackets, right? Like the difference between a wool jacket and non-wool, right? You get a nice wool jacket and maybe you're like, man, I like this. It feels good in winter. You get into June and you're like, ooh, I don't know, you know? So maybe you talk about some of the things that you have a lot of experience in. I mean, that's the deal, is show your expertise. So maybe it's like, you know, I think beginners, when they get suits, what do they get? They get blue and gray.
Black and navy.
Yeah. Okay, so
basic.
maybe you create like an intro overview of like, you know, choosing the suit for you, or choosing colors that work well with your body or your form, or I don't know, like those types of things that I'm sure you naturally help people with when they come into your shop. Those are great things to write articles about, and you can share them on guest blogs. You can share them on social media. I mean, the great thing about an article is once you write it, it can be shared in a bunch of different places without any extra work. But the cool thing about these is you're not necessarily giving away any secret sauce. You're showing your expertise and giving people a reason to learn about your shop and go, huh, this guy, Al, seems really knowledgeable. Maybe I need to check out this place. Make sense?
A lot of sense.
All right. All right, creating an email list. Talked about email at the beginning of this presentation. Email is a big deal. The big marketing companies, you know, like the people who contract with Pepsi and Coke and those companies that have billions of dollars a year to spend on marketing, they do these studies every year. And every year since 1990, it's either 98 or 99, email has been the preferred way that consumers, the majority of consumers, like to receive marketing messages. So I say that with some clarification. Most people statistically would rather you send them a marketing message through email than to call them or direct message them, right? If you have a personal one-on-one relationship and you're like, you know, hey, Jenny, I haven't seen you in a while. I want to make sure everything's going okay. That's different. But if we're sending out a marketing message like, here's our Thursday sale, here's our Black Friday specials, here's what's happening in our world, sort of a one-to-many type of communication, email is still the preferred way to communicate that stuff. The cool thing about email is it's also very cheap to send out an email to 8,000 people. Cecil, how many people did you email to promote this class? You're muted, so. Oh, well, it's a bunch.
So about 4,000.
Yeah, 4,000, right? And that it costs virtually nothing in terms of cost and time.
Right, and by using Constant Contact, it was a personal email to their first name, last name.
Yeah, it was able to be customized where it automatically filled in the first name and last name.
Yeah.
Nice. But in order to have that capability, we have to start building a list. And, you know, I talk to a lot of people and they tell me, well, it's really hard. I don't know. I don't really have a list. I'll tell you what you don't do. You do not get online and buy a list. That is a major no-no. There's no way to get yourself banned from email marketing platform faster, or make sure all your emails go into spam. Instead, what I would encourage you to do is go through your email and say, go look through your sent or your archived email and see how many people you've had conversations with in the last year about your business. People who've asked you questions, people who have, you know, in one way or another, they have asked you a question or you've been in a conversation about your business, and then put them on a spreadsheet, first name, last name, and email address. And there you go. That's the beginning of your list. It may only be 50 people, right? And yeah, you didn't ask them specifically if you could send them your newsletter. but that's okay, because your first or 1 or 2 emails, if you don't normally send out a regular email update, they're gonna suck. And that's okay, because they're not used to your audience isn't used to receiving emails from you either. So maybe in that first email, you just say, hey, this is something we're firing up. We want to communicate better with you. If this is not something you're interested in receiving, unsubscribe. You invite them to unsubscribe, and then you know that you've given them the out. If they don't want to receive the email, they can unsubscribe. If they stay on the list, then there's a good chance that they're like going, okay, all right, let's see where this goes. So I like to watch Gold Rush, and if you have ever seen the show, it's about these Alaskan miners that are pulling all this soil out of the ground and trying to find these little bitty specks of gold. Well, if you've never panned for gold or mined gold, and I haven't, but I've watched it on TV, and I have stayed in a Holiday Inn before, so I'm pretty close. What they do is they take these excavators and they collect these big buckets of earth, and they put it into a washer, which it shakes to separate the rocks in the soil, and then the water washes all the soil off, and the gold particles are heavier than everything else, so they sink to the bottom of the tray into these mats, and then they can pull the mats out and clean the mats, and they get all the gold, right? So the rocks and the earth shoot out the end of what's called the sluice box, and those are called tailings. All right, I promise this is going to go somewhere. So those tailings are what I'm focused on. So how many people come into your business or ask you questions about a product or whatever that maybe don't do business with you, right? Those are tailings. We deal with them and we go yes or no, and then we never hear from them again. If we could define a process to get their basic information and go, hey, if you don't mind, I'll put you on our email newsletter, or let me send you some information about our store, and you drop them into an email list, then what you're doing is you're setting them up to re-wash those tailings regularly. So yeah, maybe they're not interested in buying something from you right now, but if you get them dumped into an email list and you send them an email update once a month or once a quarter, then it helps keep bringing your brand back in front of them, right? So then you got a shot at them going, oh, I need to stop back by there. Maybe they have a reason to do business with you now. You've already went through all the effort to earn that lead. You might as well set it up to keep working it, so that eventually the majority of them will wind up becoming a customer. Does this make sense? All right. Next up, we have listing your products and services on other sites. So there's lots of ways to do this, especially now there's Facebook Marketplace, there's Google Store, there's more and more of these types of things popping up. So go out and get your products listed in different sites. Now, this isn't particularly as helpful as the next slide, which is creating coupons. A lot of people don't know this, but a huge chunk of the US are couponers. Even if we don't realize it, I don't know how many of you have ever went to go buy something online, and right before you click checkout, you went and opened a Google screen and searched for discount code for something else. I'm definitely guilty of that. And I would say more often than not, I find a discount code and I'm able to save 10% or 20% or sometimes 50%. So that's a common practice, and that's looking for a specific product, but there's lots of people who will go search for, research different products. They'll look for alternatives, or they'll look for, I don't know, a good place to go find a type of product. So a good way to get increased business exposure is by creating a coupon. Yeah, and it doesn't always have to be money. Sometimes it's 10% off or 15% off, but it could also be like a bundle, like a free add-on, or an add-on, like an extra service add-on to a product, right? I mean, there's lots of ways to create a coupon, but lots of sites online will allow you to publish these coupons for free. Now I have a list of 8 up here. So if you come up with a way to create a coupon, maybe it's a Black Friday sale even, you go and you can list your coupon on all these sites. Now, the thing about these sites are there's some of the big ones. Coupon Mom, for example, there's over 1 million people that visit that website so how many of them are in Oklahoma City? How many of them are looking for your type of product or service? But that's not really the point. The point is if we go and we put it out there and it throws a couple of leads our way increasingly over the next year, that helps have consistent growth, right? It's one more way to get more leads or more potential customers. Okay, so this is the part where we'll talk a little bit about tracking. So we have talked about email marketing. We've talked about coupon codes. We've talked about Facebook and different social media channels. We've talked about setting up all this stuff online. Now we need to figure out how to measure what's effective and what makes sense to keep putting in efforts and energy into. Google Analytics is like the rest of the presentation. These are all free things. It's free. And I'll warn you, it can be a little bit complicated, but it can also be an incredible time sink. You can spend days in Google Analytics trying to just learn more about the people who visit your site or click on your links and that sort of stuff. But you can't track you can't review history if you're not tracking it first, right? So I would encourage you to create a free Google Analytics account and do the simple setup. There's a code you got to install. Go set up that code and figure out how to use it. And even though you may not know how to use or read the data today, in a year from now or 6 months from now, when you have a question that you want to figure out how to answer, you've been tracking all this data all that time, so you have a data set that you can kind of go and look and have a place to find the answer. So I know Al has stepped away with a customer. This is probably normal stuff for you guys, right? Cecilia and Cecil and Jay?
Some of it.
Yeah.
We have Google My Business, and we do get performance information from Google.
Yeah, so Google My Business has its own, they call it Google Analytics, which is a little misleading, but it's actually only insights specific to your Google My Business account. But it still serves the same purpose. It tells you, how many people clicked on your link or clicked to call or requested directions, right? So, I mean, that stuff is super powerful. One of the things I really like to see is each month they'll tell you whether or not you had more or less requests in each category than the previous month. So it kind of shows you if overall the demand is up or down for that type of service. These are all like simple things that you can glance from a simple message or email if you have the services set up. But if you haven't gone through and spent some of the time to set this stuff up, you won't receive those emails. So you're sort of relying on the gut, Well, it feels like that's like the most dangerous way to run a company, right? Like we're in the world of big data. Let's set up these free tools to at least help us fill in half of the boxes so that we're not completely guessing on everything. All right, so we have a lighter audience on this call, so I haven't had as many questions as normal, so we're cruising right through. Jay might say that we're on time, so that'd be a plus, which is odd for me. So this is pretty much the wrap-up party right here. Here's some links to different resources that are available. Everything on here, I'm pretty sure is free or has a free version. We have a few minutes, so I'll just kind of walk through them. So google.com analytics is Google Analytics that we talked about on the last slide. /webmasters is, so if you have your own website, Google has all these scripts called bots and they go and look at your website and all the different pages every 7 to 10 days. Well, whenever they find something they don't like on your website, google.com/webmasters is the channel that's how they tell you what they find that they don't like. So that's a free tool. You can set that up and communicate better with Google. Google.com/trends is a pretty cool tool. It's another one of those things that you can get lost in researching data. You go in and you type a search phrase or a topic. So maybe it's like start a business, for example. And then it'll show you the whole country, and you can hone into Oklahoma and then to Oklahoma City or to the county. And it'll show you how many people search for starting a business in that area, that region. But it'll also show you variations of how people search for that. So I find that really effective whenever I'm trying to figure out how people think about a topic, because it's really interesting some of the different phrases that people type in looking for a topic. Business.facebook.com is that gives you access to all the business resources that Facebook has. It's really convoluted and a bit hard to get around in and understand. So just go into that knowing that you're probably going to be frustrated with it. Bing.com/webmaster is the Bing search engine's versions of the Google Webmaster tools. It's how their bots communicate with you about what they see. And then moving to the right, you've got CMS, which stands for Content Management System. These are free platforms to build your own website. They're all free: Drupal, WordPress.org, and Joomla.org. I'll tell you, WordPress is by far the most popular. It currently powers about 1/3 of the internet. Now, WordPress.com is different than WordPress.org. So if that's something that you're contemplating diving into, I would encourage you to do a little bit of research. So Cecil brought up earlier on the call the maps. Maps are super important. Again, one of the most powerful free things that you can do for your business right now. And so I have those links for you. Oh, and there's the Apple map link. See, I knew I didn't remember it, so I went ahead and made sure it was in the resources guide. So there's google.com/maps, bing.com/map, and apple.com/iOS/maps. Now, helperreporterout.com actually shouldn't be under that. That is a resource where you can go and list your business for free. And if a reporter, like one of your local news reporters, has a question or is looking for a subject matter expert to ask questions on a topic, they will reach out to you through there. It's sort of their Rolodex of local businesses that they can reach out to ask questions. So that might be something, had you been registered there earlier in the year, they might have reached out when they were trying to figure out how small businesses were navigating COVID and the pandemic. So again, it's a free thing you can go get yourself registered for. Here's a list of some of the most popular social media networks, definitely not all of them. Al, I know you had a customer. So one of the big things we were talking about was creating a coupon and listing your site on coupon sites for free, so that all those coupon moms and all those people out there that do a lot of looking for coupons and where to shop, that's a little bit of free advertising. So here's a list of those. And communication tools. Okay, so we did talk for a few minutes about how do you manage all these social media profiles and still have time to run your business. So Constant Contact is one of your tools that can help with email sending, but Buffer and Hootsuite, both of those services are, they have free versions, and they allow you to set up, like, for example, your Facebook, your Twitter, and your LinkedIn, and you can take a post and schedule a post and automatically send it to all three networks at the same time. So that's a really easy way to make sure that you're broadcasting your message without having to go log in and log out of all the different accounts and try to keep posting the same message. Let's see. Another.
Matt, I don't see anything on here about search optimization. One of the things that a lot of my people come to me clients that come to me with web pages, and I say, well, okay, well, let's see if we can find your business on the internet. And I won't let them put in their URL for their website. I ask them to search for their business with some keywords and find out. And oftentimes they don't appear on the first 15 pages of the search. But how some insights on how to improve your search optimization.
Yeah, we're gonna go way over. So I can definitely, when Fast Visit, I have a presentation on SEO in general and like some of the basics and breaking it down for recommendations. But Cecil, there's no way that I know of to answer that question in just a few minutes.
Okay, well, let's take a rain check for a more detailed discussion later on then.
Any good author or speaker has to leave a cliffhanger somewhere, right?
Sure.
Oh, one last free advertising thing I can throw out there and tell you about before I hand this back over to Jay is when you create a Google My Business account, so a Google map listing, they give you one post that you can post to your map listing. And it's kind of a weird thing because when we think of post, we think of like a Facebook post or a TikTok post. It's not really like that. It's really an ad. You get one free ad, and the ad only lasts for 7 days. So this ad expires 7 days from the time that you create it. So in order to create this ad, you go to log into your Google My Business. If you don't already have a Google map listing, go create one. And then on the left, you'll see a menu item for post. And that's where you can go and create this post. And again, it's more like an ad. It'll show up next to or under your Google map listing. Whenever somebody searches for, like clothing store near me, it'll show up as either an ad below your map or next to your map, depending on whether they're on a mobile device or desktop or iPad or something like that. But either way, it's a free ad. And I would highly encourage you to keep that going. What I like to encourage people to do is whenever you do your scheduling for the next week, that's when you update that Google post, right? So that way, every week, you just kind of have it built into your ritual, your planning ritual, to go update that message. But you can have a link that's, you have like your message. So let's say it's, all suits on sale, 10% off this week. And then you can have a button that is click here to go to the page, or click here to call, or click here to get directions. Like it gives you a couple of options for call to actions. So that's kind of the last little snippet that I can throw in there to make sure that you have way too many homework items after this call. All right, Jay, back to you.
Well, a quick question, if you would. I mean, for this series, we've been doing kind of a shotgun approach and send out as many emails as we can, as Cecil was saying, 4,000. Is that really effective, or should it be more targeted?
Well, it depends. So one of the questions that I would ask is, how often do you email the list? And when's the last time that the list was cleansed? So how active are the people in the list in general? If the list has been dormant for a long time, or a big section of it has been dormant for a long time, you can't suddenly just expect them to be involved, activated.
What we did, Matt, we used a list of active clients. And unfortunately, that there's no, within our CRM tool that we have, there's no really good way of filtering our client list.
Yeah.
One way to do it is the most, what was the last time you made contact, had say a mentoring session or a contact with that client. We can do mentoring sessions because we track that. Just have any other communication with the client is not, if it's not recorded in core, there's no way to filter.
Yeah.
And then
So
once you extract that list into constant contact, there is no way to filter it against activity.
no, you're right. Absolutely. So so before you created that list and you started sending these emails out to market your series, how often did those people ever get an email, if ever,
Oh,
from?
I probably send them an email. I sent them probably once every 6 months. It's not often enough.
So that's a big part of what you're dealing with. Is they haven't been trained to expect that email yet, to expect to go look at that for value, and you're in 2020, where, I mean, do you remember when COVID started? Like every company under the sun felt it necessary to go, we're scared of COVID too. Here's the things we're doing. We're asking the employees to wash their hands after they go to the restroom. And do you remember those emails? Like our inboxes got blown apart. And it was companies like, who are you? Like, how did I get on your list? You know, great, Facebook, awesome. I was really concerned that you were going to fall apart. You know, so there's a little bit of burnout in people getting new emails and all that sort of stuff right now. It as we get a little further from April and May and all that, it's going to increasingly get better. People will start to pay more and more attention to their email, but it's really important that you just keep consistently sending it and try to send it at the same day and time every week or every month or however. Frankly, something where you have a series like this, I would send it every week. And I would try to choose the same day and time every week so that they can just kind of start to develop a habit and get used to seeing it. And always make sure that the content in the email is something that they're going to see value in. Not something you think they should see value in, but something that they'll see value in. That way, it starts building starts building a habit that they associate in their head high value with.